everyone for being here. So we've got a couple new faces, so we'll do brief introductions real quick, go through our objectives for tonight, do some quick little updates, and then start getting into the meat of things. So reaching out to the commissioners, figuring out our core team for the update of the community wildfire protection plan, team leaders. And our next meeting is going to be Tuesday, December 7th. While we're on the topic of that, for the January meeting, we typically meet the first Tuesday of each month, but that puts us at Tuesday, January 4th. So probably not the best day. Is everyone okay with moving it to the following week, Tuesday, January the 11th?
I think that's a terrific idea.
Perfect. Awesome. So we will do that.
That's another one I probably won't be here at, but
Oh, that you should have another meeting that's on that.
that's the second, fourth Tuesday.
Shoot.
Are you okay with this going on?
Yeah.
You and we'll record it?
Awesome.
Okay.
Yep. You'll
Make sure
receive.
to-
Oh, you
Make
know.
sure to go to the lead of every new committee and.
Plus.
No, I can't.
All right.
Yeah, I thought it cut down to lesser
Yeah.
stuff in my other group, and it had already been moved back up. And
Oh.
we start state director with the drill group next year.
Seriously. Next year is in January.
Jeez. All right, so a little outreach update. Last event we were at was Apple Days on October 2nd. We got around 6 to 8 signups for home assessments there, which was awesome. We do have home assessment signs at 5 spots: Bear Creek, Fred Burr, Canyon Creek, Wyatt Lane, and Roaring Lion. So those just say home assessment, our Fire in the Root logo. It's got a little QR code on there, so people can scan it, register for home assessments. These are kind of old signs that we've had for a while. We want to kind of update them. Got some feedback about just making it more accessible for people who may not use technology with QR codes and stuff like that. So updates for that in the future. We've had 12 home assessments in October, so significant increase from before. And I think the majority of those signups we actually got during the fair, as well as Apple Days. So seems like that in-person outreach is really what makes a huge difference, especially down here. So still a few requests coming in from the DNRC website, but a lot less than what we've been able to get in person. So
in comparison, since 2016, which is when we switched to this online database that we put the information in, we did about 45 home assessments between 2016 and I think I ran it through this last summer. So doing 12 in a couple of weeks is phenomenal. It's awesome. And it is a minute drop in the bucket, but from what we've been doing, it's awesome.
Yes.
So that's
yeah. Interesting thing with that though, out of the 12, only 2 homes were at moderate risk.
Yeah.
So we're the people who care and are actually doing mitigation are the ones who are actually requesting these. The people who probably need it a little more aren't reaching out to us, or we might not be reaching out to them, or both. So something to work on in the future there. And then, yeah, does anyone know of any big events coming up during the winter that we should be at?
February, the Veteran Building Association, the first education building in Hamilton.
What do they got going on?
They have the builder show and
Oh.
information.
Gotcha. Okay.
we
we attended that 2 years ago before COVID. And that, I think Byron, isn't that when you went around all the insurance places and gave them the fire and the rep brochure, and there wasn't a lot of interest, but at least you were there. And I think we did get a few risk assessment signups. So.
Well, we have
Yeah.
that retrofit guide. We're in the
Yeah.
Missoula, the MCFDA is like to sign us up to do the same thing up in Missoula. But our big push was those retrofit guides. We might take them all out. So.
Yeah.
We had the model houses last year, so, or 2 years ago, so I think that's a good,
Yeah, get the information out to builders, start getting them aware.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, we need that representation here too. Want that
Right,
voice.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's start getting them,
Yeah.
so we start using.
Yep.
Fire resistant building materials.
So Judy Anderson, who's not here tonight, she has been trying really hard to reach out to the Builders Association and has not been able to get a hold of anyone essentially. So yeah, and not sure how active the association it is themselves, but I think getting to those individual builders is probably going to be our best bet. So if anyone personally knows builders in the county, whatnot, share our information. Word of mouth is probably the best way to start getting more people to come. But agreed. That's an awesome one. So any other events, ideas for the winter?
Did we skip the introductions?
Oh yeah, we totally did. I always, if I don't, I'm sorry. If I don't have a slide up there, I forget it every time. I'm gonna start doing that from now on. Okay. Events, Bitterroot Builders Association, got that on the books. Let's jump back to introductions. So I'm Bridget. I'm the Fire Adapted Communities Coordinator in Ravalli County for the DNRC, based in Hamilton.
I'm Anna Bates and I work for the Bitter National Forest here at Hamilton, and I do fire prevention.
I'm Rick Donovan. So I am the Assistant Director of Research Development for the Sustainable Smart Manufacturing at the California Institute for Information and Telecommunications Technology. at University of California. Wasn't prepared for my whole job. Normally I have to practice. I get a good night's sleep to get it all out. I live here in Hamilton. I grew up here, and I'm a COVID refugee from University of California.
Thank you.
Their Doc Sam Unit Forester, DNRC. Joe Dean, retired Florence homeowner, just interested in being here.
Neighbor John Patterson, just a private owner, just interested in seeing what's going on.
Thank you.
Ken Brewer, Florence Fire.
Fire Bonnie, Mayor RCD, Forester.
Tim Hancock, for good fire. That's it.
Mike Kent, I'm local director currently and Sheriff Co-Chair Government Affairs with the Better Valley Board of Realtors. Soon to move on to state director, local homeowner here, retired emergency services, which includes the fire services.
John McKenna, Victor Fire.
Did you introduce yourself? Did you skip it? Okay, sorry. Okay, I'm Krista Mortensen. I am with the DNRC, the Southwestern Land Office. So I'm based out of Missoula, but Ravalli County is in my area, so.
Considered National Forest and Fire Service. Eric Hoover, Valley County Emergency Management.
We have 2 folks online. Let's see. George, you want to unmute and introduce yourself? Or Brian?
Brian Adams, Hamilton Fire, and one of the trustees on the Hamilton Rural Board.
Thanks,
Thank
Brian.
you. And George's mic's not working.
Is it George Corn?
Yes.
Okay.
George.
Hi, George.
Hi, George. Awesome. So, Matt, would you like to give your update on what the forest is up to?
So prior to 2 weekends ago, we were still training the fire season. We were picking up state firefighters a week. Once we got to that true season ending event, we turned into some prescribed fire. We were able to get about 600 acres on the School Range District. Palmerston, it's three, 100 acres of pilots of our West Fork District, 100 acres under burning, sitting about 500 acres now, about 700 more. Stevensville has just a few subway and roadside, 37 projects a little bit. So, that's where we're at. Hoping with homes and get files. That's where we're at. Getting ready to dive into our hiring season, training season again. Take a pretty big break.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yes, it was great this morning. That logging, is that commercial? Oh. Must be. Andrews, that's, I believe that's where they were storing logs from Boston. They hauled that. It's decked up for sale. Stats it's so long. Couldn't see where the log right there. There's a log. No, you pull up that camera on Austral Pass though, and it's looking, so that the camera's looking to the north, you can see where that takes off. That's all the portion that was on the video. They built it down the hill to get out. They had 3 different spots there for Trail Creek Fire. One down bottom pass was Idaho side. It's the other ground southeast corner of that fire. One cut fire.
Yep, you want firewood up at, on Woodhill Grove. Bunch up there with that fire line, there's sign up there. Fire, it's all decked up, lit and everything. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Eric, did you have anything relevant to update us on? Or anything? John
Not-
spot, but
Not that I know of, it's been pretty quiet.
Awesome.
Yeah, on the fire front, just got a month left of open burning. It's been closed quite a bit because of air quality has to be, but the conditions are good for folks to burn their piles and
awesome. Perfect.
You know, the job's still posted. I don't know how much, I don't think there's been a huge amount of interest in it. They got tons of applicants for the airport manager. When the last guy retires, but I think that from what I understand, there's only been a few folks since it was posted that might have been interested in that. So I guess it's just not a glamorous thing and a horrible job market. So,
There, did you have any updates for DNRC, your work?
Nothing big going on with the DNRC. I've got a few scattered files, but I did most of my burning last year from the last 2, so I did up 40 votes. So I think I have about 200 files. I did over 3 days by myself last year, so that was the bulk of what I had. And so, no, I've got a few scattered files of permits, but nothing major for the DNRC this fall.
Awesome. Thank you.
I know FWP is going to be doing some burn up on 3 Mile. I think he's just gonna be doing right away piles. He had done some work interior where they piled, but I think he's gonna let those sit for another year, so I don't think there's gonna be a lot of major burning. Like one day of burning, yeah, I think he needed some help, so just some right away piles, those that opened up, but there'll be some more action once they get back into that project, probably this next season. And so you'll probably see more burning in that area probably next fall.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, Kristen.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a quick update on the state funding grant for the CWPP process. We don't have a lot more information. I wish I had more, but we know that the work that the state has to do before they formally release the money is going to take probably until about April. So they have to validate the Montana wildfire risk assessment data at a county level so that we can utilize it. So I'm not exactly sure what all that entails, but they're saying probably 20 weeks of work to get it to the usability forecast. But they are working right now on the process that we will be applying for those funds and how we're going to structure it. They are now leaning towards having us secure a consultant to do the work. They still would like a consultant to do the work, but instead of the state contracting one consultant to do all the counties that need done, that time, because of the hoops that they would have to go through for a contract of that size, they said it just would make it extremely painful for all of us. And so, and drag the time out. And so they're leaning towards us securing the contractor. And so that's probably how it will happen, is we will need to pick a consultant and pay for that. And we will need to apply for the grant still. So we'll need to show that we have that local support, that it's a collaborative effort, and that we are ready to move forward once we have those funds. And so, you know, let me make sure that I remember. Let's see.
We apply for those funds now in April sometime.
That's what she's hoping. She's hoping to get all of that stuff done so that when they get the data to the county level that they need, we can just go. So I think that's the goal. And I can't promise, but that's the goal, is that it will be divvied up and prioritized so that we can just go. So that's why this is still, it's still critical that we move forward now and get all of our ducks in a row so that the minute we can apply, we do, and we show, and we have commissioner support, and we show that we have a good, solid team that's ready to move forward.
Just wondering about the layers you mentioned, it's gonna take them a while to get those together. Fire risk. Is that
Well,
what you said?
well, they have the data from the Montana wildfire risk assessment.
Yeah.
But somehow it isn't quite appropriate to do the scale of risk analysis that counties should do, is what I'm understanding, even though I thought it kind of was, when you go into the Montana wildfire risk assessment, it's drilled down, you can drill down to even the community. But there's some aspect that they committed to when they requested, when they put in their proposal for these funds.
Mhm.
So they have to, it's a checkbox that they have to check as part of a requirement for this grant. They have to provide the data at this certain level. And it's purely my ignorance in the data format that I'm not explaining it well.
Reason I asked is, just asked Ashley, risk areas, fire risk areas in Valley County. And she just sent me yesterday
Right,
of all those areas. So we can start prioritizing all the applicants we have. That have applied over the past 2 years, we haven't had funding.
right.
We got something like 68 applicants, 1,000 acres. So that's the reason I asked that. Is
Yeah.
we have those shape files that we went through our process with and prioritized. Who's gonna be first to get the money and who's gonna be second to get it.
And that all came from the Montana Fire Risk
Yeah.
Assessment. So what I'm thinking is they may be updating it. They may be doing some sort of ground truthing. And to make sure it's as updated as possible. So, because it's all there, you're right, like the shape files are all there. So that's what I was.
And after looking at their shape files on our GIS, like it doesn't.
Okay, and so maybe that's it. Okay, but that's, and I'm sure that I haven't drilled her for exactly why I've been more concerned on the timeline,
Yeah.
how long has it, but it's, so, but I think with the goal of it, them thinking that they'll have that data ready by the spring or late spring, and they want to have everything else decided before that, we're looking at, we want to be ready, February, March, May. If they come out with a request for proposal. And it will just be, it's not going to be a 100-page application. It's going to be this, this is what we would like to do. This is who we have ready to go. This is the support that we have. If we have some letters of support, that would be good. And so.
So what level of or letting the contract to a consultant would be expected? Should we have a letter of intent? Should we have a contract in place? Should we have them on speed dial? What do we have to do prior to the spring, and what would be the upfront cost of doing?
I think, I don't know for upfront costs. I'm sure there's something to lock in. We don't want to sign anything until we know for sure their conditions, just because they have waffled a little bit, like they aren't sure. So I think
When you
we
say
need
they
to-
are what?
This state.
The state.
This state, yeah, and until we see it in black and white as a requirement, like we don't want to sign anything. But I do think that it's something for us to look into and to discuss. Do we want to shop around and see what's out there? And kind of have an idea of who we may want to go with? Or is that kind of the last step and we wait for the state to tell us for sure, you need to hire a consultant? And then we really start shopping, I lean towards going and looking, and just, like we had, Emily and, business name is escaping me,
SWC.
An acronym.
yeah, Emily and Tori. Yes, SWCA.
Yep.
And maybe
Kentucky offered it.
good
Well,
job.
here's- Well,
Good Yeah. Okay. So I think it would benefit us to have a couple more consultants present to us, because it's always good to see if there's different ways. And, you know, as we move forward in our meetings, we're going to be looking at what we want to make sure our CWPP includes, what we want to, what pitfalls we don't want to fall into. And maybe there is a consultant out there that really fits us, you know, and gets us, and maybe has done work in counties that are very similar to the Valley. So I don't think it hurts between now and April, or when we need to sign anything, to kind of shop around, but we're not gonna sign, we should not sign anything.
Does the state have a sample request for proposal or something that, I mean, they must have done something, at least market research, to know that they've got too big a task for that one contract. So they obviously have scoped it. Is that available to us? And is it in the form of an RFP?
I don't know.
That'd be a good thing to know, to find out,
Okay,
because it could save us a ton of time.
yeah, I don't think they're to that point. I think that's what she's working on right now. The gal who's kind of the head of, she's coordinating and managing this grant. I think that's the step.
But they probably won't do one. If they haven't already done one, they won't do one if they know that they can't let that big contract.
Right, yes. Well, they can't. They know it will
They just
take
won't.
a really long time and
Right, they
and to do
Can,
that.
but they
So,
don't have time.
yeah, it's like so they're like,
But
in the essence of time.
does the state have a time limit on when they need to expend the funds? So
Yes,
that's gonna
yeah.
drive- So if they have one consultant do all 50 counties.
right,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that probably was a
So
consideration as
I
well.
would think that the state is probably developed some kind of a scope of work for when they were thinking about hiring one consultant.
I don't think so. They're still, I think that's even more progressive than they're in, because it's a lot of funds, but it's not an inordinate amount of funds. So, and you do have to, we're coming off the fire season. And so it is, you know, that work, the primary work to even move to this point is that data, is getting that data to a point where they know it's going to be ready. So I think they were focused on that and moving slow because of fire season. It just, everything focuses there. And then, and now they're like, okay, we have a projected end date for the data. Now they're switching their focus to, let's really figure this out. So I think we're gonna get more answers very soon, because now the focus is on, okay, how are we going to be giving up these funds? How do we want how do we want to form this RFP? What information do we want to get from the counties and make sure to have? How are we going to rate their proposals? So I think they're wrestling with that right now. So that's why I don't have the answers, and that's why they don't have the answer right now. And they is really just a few people. We just don't have a team. So yeah.
It's actually gonna be higher than the
We will be. And so that's the other,
NRC.
no, I'm sorry. Yes, the counties, the county entities that are taking on the updates will be responsible for figuring that out. They'll be paying. So, and that will be something we'll have to work out. So,
If it was the commissioners that would, there's some other considerations.
Right.
It's not a roadblock, but we would just want to make sure we do.
Right. Yeah, so, and I think I'm hoping that the council, this council, can be that entity that handles that and so that we can present with the commissioners and yeah. So sorry, maybe I shouldn't have brought it up.
Awesome.
I like to try to be really transparent.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd still, regardless of answers or not, you know, this is, the update needs to be done. We gotta keep moving forward. So just, even though we don't have answers quite yet, it'll happen. We'll get there. We just gotta keep moving forward. So, yeah. Again, so we'll just start getting into things. Commissioner support, figuring out details for that, team leaders, and then identify a core team that we're gonna need. So at the end of last meeting, we kind of started to talk about, well, prior to that, we had decided on 3 different committees that we were gonna try and start working on projects. The Community Wildfire Protection Plan Committee was one of those. At the end of last meeting, we kind of started going back and forth between committee, core team, who's who, who's doing what. So just for the sake of making things very clear, at the last meeting, we did decide these next few meetings, we're gonna just focus on the Community Wildfire Protection Plan update. So there's really no need for that committee. So it's just fire in the root. We're working on it together. So objectives for these next few meetings are going to be really just hammering down commissioner support, identifying that core team and our leaders, and then see once we get those, the combination of these figured out, that'll hopefully put us in a good position once that funding's available. We'll apply to the funding and hopefully get it. So, but having those key pieces is going to be, that's going to be what moves us forward. So, and then with that core team that we identify and those leads, that core team is going to be the one that works with the consultants and takes the CWPP update from the beginning to the end. So Fire in the Root Council is going to help it get started, and then that core team is going to take it off. So yeah, is that clear? Does everyone, any oppositions or anything? Comments, questions? Okay, awesome. So commissioner support, trying to answer who, when, how, and what. So yeah, who do we think should represent Fire in the Root and be the one to reach out to the commissioners? Do we want to pick a representative from the council? Should it be all Valley Fire Chiefs, someone from there? Do we want Eric to talk to the commissioners? What, yeah.
Should be a group.
Okay.
It represents those entities, obviously, the fire chiefs in some form or another, the council in some form or another. And probably several of them, so that you get some more public facing people.
Okay.
Now, perhaps representatives from the NRC and the Forest Service, not perhaps, of course, and the relevant county agencies, so that it's a group that can answer questions and present it in the five front to the commission.
And I'd be glad to, set it up and kind of lead the meeting or, the intro of the meeting. And I would just add on to what Ken's saying, it'd be useful maybe to have at least one person from each, for lack of a better word, group that's represented here. So maybe one, one volunteer fire person, the folks that are here that are just, community members. If you just have, if we had a couple community members there, I think that would show a really strong support to the commissioners. Obviously the firefighting agencies, Forest Service, and we could get somebody from, Builders Association, insurance, realtors. If we can get a representative from each of those groups, that would demonstrate that we have buy-in support from the whole community on this that would go along.
So after last meeting, I'm only gonna say this because Roylene's not here. Roylene had made a suggestion that was kind of the opposite, because that's what we just discussed was kind of what was brought up at the last meeting. And Roylene had said, another option that may work well is a very informal, one or two individuals. Just, and maybe it's Eric, maybe it's Brad, the fire warden, or Scott, but maybe one or two individuals that kind of informally just discuss the CWP update and secure their support. Just saying, hey, this is where we're going, and inviting them to kind of be a part of the initial planning. One, so that we also can make sure that we're not going to run into any of the road bumps that we've ran into in the past, so that we're everything's out on the table and we know their expectations. And then as they had time to be a part of that, then ask for a letter of support when we do the request for proposal, like that. So that's another option. I don't know. I think, you probably have worked closest with the commissioners.
And I think there's some merit to what Roylene's saying, as far as we shouldn't just set this meeting and all show up, and that's the first they've heard of it. And
Pitchforks.
so maybe, like you say, Brad Moen and I, meet with Commissioner Burrows or a couple of them informally talk about what's going to be proposed. But it's important to get on the record in the public meeting that this is what we're talking about. We can have the first meeting without necessarily asking for the letter of support if we want to do it sooner than later. And not that we would have to have somebody from every group speak, but I think it would really be important at that meeting to have everybody there in the introduction, say, these are the people that we have that are part of this. This is what the proposal is, and by the way, we'll probably come back to see you in a month or two to ask for a letter of support.
Based on what we just went through, about the 2 years. Which is the public, realtor, the builders association. And I was well further out, fire departments. Get them involved too. I do know that one of our government affairs chair, that I co-chair with, she's on the Builder Association board in Missoula County, and you talk wooey, and it's just like, whoa, we don't want it.
Right, I know.
And
It's
it's
your
gonna
policy codes and
The
regulations.
policy code,
Yeah.
regulation, and increased building costs. But the way that it just blown up on this right now, the real estate industry now, and prices are so outrageous. Yeah, our locals can't afford to buy a home in this valley. It's disgusting, and already that's affecting, and the building costs are being affected here in long. And, but I do know there are some builders that are starting to look off the building places. And what, one of them is looking at doing is gonna be fire resistant, talk more about using concrete rather than stick built. So that's something, what we need to get across, and that's where we need support from builders and the insurance agencies. So that, in education.
Yeah, we don't have to have the plan in hand to present. We have to have a broad base of support to develop a plan that they need to support.
Right.
But we need the actual WUI in place, and it's gonna bring regulation, but in the long run, we don't have, I know that we should fight on it, we need those in this county.
I thought it was good with the example Flathead sent out,
Yeah.
and then our old one. I think it's, looking at those, there's some different types of information in each of them, and that's really what we're talking about, is getting everybody together with the commissioners buy-in and look at, what do we want to put in here that's really applicable to us, and what maybe in some other people's, but it's not going to be useful to us. And maybe we don't hammer on the WUI. We obviously, like we talked about, have to address it, but how do we approach that, and how can we agree on what might be a reasonable, recommendation for buildings?
That's, for CWPPs, the WUI is a critical thing because, the Healthy Forest Act, funding that stemmed from that could only be spent in areas that were designated WUI. So that's why it was critical that every CWPP identified the WUI. But there is wiggle room. We don't have to call it WUI. The Forest Action Plan has priority areas. I think as long as we honor the intent, there probably is that wiggle room. Bridget and I were talking earlier that priority areas. If it's just or hazard areas or whatever, but like we can think out of the box and perhaps still be able to access those funds if we're creative, if that's a big deal. But it also might not be a big deal. The commissioners might be totally on board with it by now. They might have realized that.
I think it's really going to be an easier sell than something.
And just this last week, all in one plan around roads that I saw. I'm not so sure some of the fire equipment can get up to. I know some of the stuff like, was it operating East Elmford, East Valley, and I was over in the Helena Valley. I couldn't got fire trucks in there. Planning department, another one.
The 2006 plan had the priorities and it had those identified.
Yeah.
And that you just need to recognize the trade-off that's going to bring for service in our plan.
That's right, yeah, because for you guys, you have to have.
That severely hamstrings not having that buoy layer, and that pushes us back to the Forest Restoration Act. It's identified in that act. It's severely, it's pretty tight.
Does it have to be labeled, like, does it have to be labeled?
That's the way all is written. If it's not identified in the community welfare protection plan, it's a new layer, we have to revert back to HEFA. That's our standard for all of our project plans, timber sales, whatever it is.
Okay.
And so I'm not saying it has to be one way or the other, but just recognize it's a trade-off.
Okay, well, that's a pretty big trade-off, so,
It sure has potential.
yeah, okay. Well, then I say let's look at the commissioners, definitely the second more receptive, and also hearing that trade-off too. Sometimes, you know, make up
And
that-
then education on the builders and the realtors.
Well, that's the one thing, is that we aren't, like, the CWPP is not something that we should already have in mind the answers that it's gonna happen. Like, we need to do it right and truly collaboratively and to incorporate the values and the issues that are identified throughout the county and with our residents and stakeholders. We should discover the issues and the goals through the process. We should not go in already with, this is what we want in there. We want codes and policies. That's what has to be in there. We want fuels reduction here, here, and here. We should not go in with that mentality. It may be the result of, that those might be the best options that come from the result of the research that we do and listening to the public, but like, we have to make sure that
And make people aware that, hey, I've got all this property. I've already got an idea when I first go in there this past period. First thing I could do, and action telling plan. If you do decide to get this, first thing you need to do is start looking at the mitigation.
right, yeah. Our education will be a huge part of it, but we may find that the education we think is how we should do it. As we go through this CWPP process, we might find that we've been doing it all wrong. And that there's a better way to reach Ravalli County residents. And that's, you know, that's a benefit and that hopefully will come out of this. It's our big issue. How do we reach the people that we aren't reaching right now? How do we reach those high hazard homes? Because we're reaching the low and the moderates right now. And we want the high. So that hopefully will come out of this and we'll figure out that educational piece of exactly how to do it. So we speak to the Ravalli County.
I've been thinking about that too, because that the one night hazard home, I consider it high hazard. And $2 million. What the asking price is on?
But those high hazard homes at that value, at that cost, they're forced to employ a planning engagement program where the carriers are not going to write.
That's where the insurance industry comes in.
Absolutely correct. And then, it dovetails right with the banking industry, because they're not gonna lend the loan if they don't get. Now, if you've got a $5 million property, you know, you're still gonna have financing on it, even though they can float the whole thing. Because many times it's cheaper to borrow the money than it is to use rent. So now you've got the banking industry involved in it. It's gonna be forced on them, or else they're gonna end up in self-insurance.
Right.
And they're not gonna do self-insurance.
Same thing with floodplains.
It's the same thing with the floodplains. And all that vegetation maps, all the flood maps, all the hurricane mapping, all of that. It's gonna end up wherever you are in forced mitigation. Whether it's building material, you know, or vegetation mitigation, you know, trenching. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff. And these companies that are writing this have a certain amount of capacity that they can take. They're going to be after these high wealth individuals to get that capacity because they know they can improve their property and lower the potential loss. And it's going to be forced.
That just hasn't hit quite yet.
It hasn't hit yet, but look what's going on to the property
Right.
values. I mean, people can't afford to buy a $3 million property. It's insanity.
Yeah.
Right? But a lot of these properties are secondary, third, and fourth homes. And so they're coming from other areas in the nation that they're already in hurricane mitigation, California problems. They're already involved in it. And the carriers are gonna say, we don't want it.
Yeah.
No, we don't want it.
It's already happening based on what's happened with the fire season in California.
Absolutely, we're already here.
Yeah.
Look at Louisiana with the floods. How long, every year, here comes more federal tax dollars, It's sucking them dry. So, anyway, sorry to jump in on that.
That's very good.
No, I mean, we're not gonna get away from it.
Right, and so that's why it just makes it, like you're saying, it's critical that insurance is represented in this process, and so that we can be proactive, because we have the chance to actually be proactive in Montana right now, because it is coming.
It's
But
here.
we are yes, but we're still a little bit behind others in other states, and so we have time to actually address it better. Hopefully.
Mhm.
And the other problem is people that have a ton of money, where are they building? In high hazard areas.
Yeah, yeah.
That's where they want the view.
Yeah,
And if you're in Florida, where are you building? Right in front of the ocean.
They want privacy. They don't want to cut anything. They don't
Nothing.
want to look in the neighbor's window.
I don't want to see any smoke. I don't want to see anything. That's a high hazard area.
Okay, so drag us back, because I'm doing notes, and I want to make sure that I capture what we decided for the commissioners. Do like a more informal meeting first,
Just to set it up.
right? Just to
Just to set it up.
set
Not
it up,
to-
right?
Not to sell anything you're proposing.
But I think that same time still have some rights.
Who do we want exactly?
Well, I guess how soon are we wanting to do the sooner rather than later?
Sooner rather than later, but we also have to have, like, we've got to have, a good proposal, I guess, in place. Like, we have to have our thoughts very cohesive.
In January, is that
So-
too early?
No, I think January would probably be good, because I'm thinking that RFP is going to be coming, that request, I keep saying RFP, I'm sorry, that request for proposals. So the state asking for our proposal to receive funds, I'm thinking that will come in February, maybe March. And so we have to have secure commissioner support before we do that. So I would think January.
So maybe the initial kind of public meeting, not public meeting is noticed, but just the public commissioner meeting sometime in, early to mid-January. And, prior to that, myself and Brad Moe and anybody else wants to just get an informal meeting with Commissioner Burrows. Kind of go through it with them. It might be Commissioner Chilcott as well on a different one. He's got a lot of history with the county and he's been through.
Who was there last time?
Yeah.
He's been through the 2006
I-
and then
yeah, I
and then
think-
the later one that wasn't approved. So,
Right, I think that would be critical.
so we can work on that, between now and the end of the year. And yeah, it won't be next week. Guaranteed.
At that initial kind of intro meeting, would it be worth kind of asking them if there's any specifics that they want to hear from us or see from us when we come as more of a collective group? And with that, at what point the whole WUI map, we kind of, we need them to be straightforward. If they're not going to accept something, we need to know as soon as possible. So what's the best way to approach that? And would you do that in a small group conversation
The first
setting?
one should just be set up and
Set up that.
And the next one, we know what the components of the plan are, we just don't know the details. And we should keep it at that level. and not give any specifics and box anybody in.
Good idea for what they might be looking
Exactly, that would be the time to do that, but the first one, here's what's going on, and we would like to have a meeting with a broad group that has an interest in this in January. Basically, leave it at that.
It might be good in that first meeting, get a few more answers from the BRC. But in terms of, more about the RFP and
Yeah.
the process that we have to go through in order to get the money. So that those who present at the first meeting can answer a few questions on that.
at. Give an idea that we're not asking that question.
Right, and that's, I will, yeah, I'll get exact dollar figure.
Always
They're not
good
gonna
reading.
give me how much they can give out, but at least the exact dollars that they have to give out. And it as up to date as possible, but exactly what they're gonna be looking for.
Is there expectation of any matching funds from the county?
Well, no, not as. I don't remember ever her mentioning matching funds. The critical thing was we had to have that support.
Okay,
We
so
just-
it's
yeah, they-
support, not,
Yeah,
okay.
it just had to be. We had to have support. And they actually never specified commissions, they would just say you have to have local support, but we know, that's to be the voice that definitely needs to be at the table.
You can definitely show some national funds.
Right,
You know,
yeah,
any non-federal person in time
right.
report that and use that matching if you have to.
Yeah, I don't think,
Usually it's
Trying to
gonna have
remember.
some kind of matching.
I know, but I don't think this one will. What it might not cover is the full cost. It's just thinking of the number of counties that need to dip into this pot, or that might try to dip into this pot. And hearing the cost from Emily, she was saying, with 35,000,
Base and then it,
base was 35,000 for CWP. And there is a chance that we could get that amount, because it's not gonna be the same amount for every county. They're going to take into consideration the size and the population and what will be required.
Or
So we
not all
could
the
get that.
counties need it.
Yeah, and not everybody is ready for it.
Mhm.
They may need it, like they,
Well, some of them have just finished, so
right,
we don't have to redo those.
exactly,
And some of them aren't even close to starting them, so we don't have to do those.
right,
So it narrows it.
it does.
Brings in the sidewalk.
Yeah. And our risk is it already, like, we are number one. I keep saying this, but we are number one.
We dodged the bullet for somewhere.
We totally dodged a bullet.
Less than 100 acres.
Which
Yeah,
is
it's
amazing.
crazy
Wow.
in how dry and a drought.
Oh, yeah.
Just on another side note, Chris was mentioning the risk assessment stage that highlights that there's a push from an agency to use this fire shed registry. I don't know if you guys have heard about that yet. That it's just a layer to layer the whole country in these point field shapes that are all symmetrical. And then they break it out, and they just talk about risk, fire risk. And Valley County has got 5 of the top 10 for the state and 4 of the top 10 for all region 1. So it's really going to be which should come with more funding for service. So that those are all everything's lining up. We just need to give our ducks in a row.
Right.
Take advantage of this.
County commissioners know that the priority of the county, do they know that at this point?
I don't know, they know our risk. I don't know. if
That
they
might
understand
be
the
a
full
really
part.
important point to talk to them
Yes,
about, just
yeah.
what you just said,
Yeah.
as well as from the state standpoint, say, here we are, and their own products already paid. Yeah, Connor, Harvey, Hamilton. I have.
Yeah, yeah.
So it
We have
might be good.
6 communities in the top 10 in the state of risk destruction. So, yeah, we're there. But yes, I mean, I definitely, when we presented on becoming a council and taking fire and the wood to the council level, I did show the Montana wildfire risk assessment and the red thumb, as we call it, that provided is. Yes, so they did see it, but in this frame, it hasn't come out because that was in council terms, in creating a council. So it is like, it's something we definitely should emphasize, is that, that will help us get this funding, but we have to have the vehicle ready to move forward.
Second meeting
Yeah,
with the commissioners, public record.
Yeah.
So, we talked about having people there, Would it be important for those that can't be there to get letters of support to present to the commissioner?
yeah,
The building association.
Yeah.
Realtors, insurance agents. I don't know if they have countywide organizations like that. I know the realtors do.
The
But
builder association, the insurance, I'll find out
But-
on the bank.
it may be important to get those letters of support, take with you. If people can't show up.
well, and that would
Say,
look
this
great
is
on the
their all
RFP.
supports, and then, the All Valley Fire Council.
Yeah.
Just with the second break, we requested the same thing. We got a lot dumped on that a lot of realtors that they never show. They didn't complain until after the fact. So it's where we're.
Well, and that's something we actually can draft a draft letter of support. So all they really have to do is put it on their letterhead and sign it, and, we got it. But that would look great on the RFP for the, the request for the state funding too. Show all that.
It's good to have for the people who are there also. So that, the breadth of that support is obvious, not just from attendance, but from the letters. And it's also, as you just said, it's true. So, and not just do it for the people who don't think they can make it, because even the ones who think they can make it won't, So get it from all the interest groups. And the interest groups obviously with the NRC, Forest Service leadership.
And all the fire.
Well, or the All Valley Fire Council.
Well, they both.
Probably both, yeah, probably both.
And honestly, that leads into that definition of the 14. Because who we would be wanting these letters of support from are probably the same individuals that we want identified on the 14. For this.
But probably more like an expanded team, if you're talking about realtors and builders and everybody. The 14 is probably a smaller group of workers.
It is, but we still want on that group.
You want
You know,
the right
insurance.
people there. but
Right.
You don't want
that's true, too.
everybody,
Right.
you don't want everybody on
Yeah.
there or you have to
Too
get
many.
anything done.
Which, that's a question too, is how much is enough and how much is too many? So that's something we'll have to wrestle with too. It's who are those right people? Because it's not just the.
These different groups that we've talked about, talked about probably 20 different entities. That's too big for a core team. Core team is 5 or 10. And then this expanded team concept, you bring those people in as needed.
Yeah, they still provide input.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Generating product.
Right. Some identify.
Right.
That is. But yeah, that's a good point.
But if you can identify the big pool, then you can identify the people who need to be on core team from that.
Yes. Okay, do we want to identify, like list it out, who we need letters of support from? Do we want to? Because we will need them secured by January.
Mhm.
So we'll divvy that out, reaching out. Do we want to do that now?
Each
Yeah, do we want to think about it? And next meeting, that is action item number 1 is.
Bring your email suggestions. for the next one.
And a lot of the names and groups that surfaced in this discussion in previous meetings.
Mhm.
So it's not like we're starting from scratch.
Original list.
Yeah.
Start there.
Yeah.
Right.
And on that list.
Yeah.
That's starting point.
Lots of different entities.
I'll go get a market broker that I work with.
So you have contacted the insurance.
So we did have that, I here, but I do. have
I thought you said the insurance a little out of.
But we did have somebody from the insurance.
Brandon, yeah.
Yep. I'm,
But, yeah, I do know another one too. I can try and get the game. State Farm.
Well, and that's it too. One insurance or multiple? Like what? You know what I mean? Is it
Why I
one
asked
rep-
if there was a
right?
Valley County insurance.
Yeah.
It's better like.
Like whether there is.
Right.
Yeah, that's, I think that was Braden was saying there really isn't.
There is.
Yeah, so,
And there's a difference between a captive and an independent agent. Getting an independent agent is someone that represents many companies. You have a high concentration of farmers insurance, state farm, and all direct presence.
what do you recommend that we have?
Well, you've got Brandon.
yeah,
Who's with King West, who is a huge, I mean, they're a huge organization. And they have relationships with a lot of the large carriers. It's the carriers and that kind of content. You get Chubb Insurance Farmers in here saying that they're gonna, be requiring that this mitigation be taken care of, and they're not gonna write the business.
Doug Redfield, I think, is it.
I mean, I don't know any of these people, but I know, we're gonna have to get some big meat, and Brendan's already involved.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And, I'm sure they. I'm glad to talk to Brendan, so.
If we get it back, I think we could.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Bridget's.
I'm still in contact with Brandon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
This might be a dumb question, but are there any environmental groups that we need that would be supporting of that? Or I'm new to the valley, so I don't know what the politics are in that aspect, but would they push back or would they be supportive?
I I think it is a faction we definitely need to reach out to and welcome.
We've definitely reached out and welcomed all the
Right.
groups that exist in the county, but it's a matter of getting them to respond. So like Bitterroot Water Forum should be a part of this. Yeah.
So it's
And
just-
then environmental groups is a pretty broad.
Yeah,
you know,
painting it
and-
broad.
And you get, yeah, and you do it carefully, very
Cause they're.
admirably.
I think
You know,
you're gonna
but you
see
got
two sides
Trout
to that.
Unlimited that has been really supportive of fuel treatments. And for water supply issues, obviously. they cover water. Yeah, well, it's different wildlife.
Foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Foundations.
Good old time to us.
And I have their emails are in my, like, in the list that I send them all of the emails that you all get. So, and like the Bitterroot Land Trust has not responded to me, Bitterroot Water Forum. And I think they're directly applicable group that should be conversing with us. So yeah, and I think, capacity wise, my time is limited and there's so many people to reach out to. I've tried to reach out to as many as possible, as many times as possible.
I know
But-
2 people on the Big Water Forum.
Okay.
With their climate action group. Know a couple of people.
Okay.
I can-
That would be great. And I think that is the perfect example of how we're gonna get the people we need. Because yeah, me sending emails isn't gonna work.
With a lot of those groups, probably one reason why you're not getting responses. They have a website and 8 people who all have day jobs. And, they managed to scrape together a guest speaker every couple of months, and that's what they have. And
Gotcha. Makes sense.
but most of them that I know are, heck, I was talking. Climate action group just last week about this group, they're down.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
It's good.
they're,
As far as an information outlet source,
Mhm.
Calvin Library.
Okay.
I know that during that, we had, go to the west meeting. He offered to put up flyers and stuff down there, and he did the same thing with our education for the wastewater, wastewater.
Awesome.
Surprisingly, there's still a lot of people use the library.
Although Bridget had a presentation scheduled
To-
at the public library, we only had one person sign up. And wasn't it during fire season? It was like in
Yeah,
July.
Yeah, July.
They're coming in and just taking pamphlets.
Yeah. That's good. And I think it's, I just haven't had the time to print off flyers and get flyers because ideally, I would love, I've gotten some stuff down to the gas station in Darby. And, I would love to just stop at each small little spot, each area, put pamphlets there. I just hasn't, the list is, it's just prioritizing what needs to be done first. And that one has just fallen slightly to the wayside. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe this for December, that could be a priority for me, as we're trying to get more people to support it. Just trying to, again, reach out more, get our information out there. So it's a never ending process. We'll get
You're
there.
helping Fish, Wildlife and Park burn their files and might put a bug in area engagement too. That's a pretty key state agency. See if there's some interest there. And they'll owe you one for helping them with the files. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I don't know if it'd be Jason we'd work with directly. I know he kind of works. he's
Oh,
kind of-
Jason,
Jason Carter. That's why he asked for help. This is stretched all over. He's based out of Helena.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
But he'd be a really good one to.
Yeah.
Get engaged in this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it would be, he'd be easy.
You're gonna have much better success with the completion than you are with sending emails that end up in spam.
Yes,
You know,
yep,
Especially if you're looking at January.
yes, agreed, agreed.
And
It's fast, it's swiftly approaching.
Write a letter in 15 minutes. And you're done. One-offs with the website, guest speaker, they're a lot harder to get and don't have to turn them.
Mhm.
But one of the two projects that I'm not proud of is one of those that was built for is this.
Thank you. Okay,
That's where we got the report with the
Just to make sure we got it right. So for meeting with the commissioners, Eric and Brad are gonna do just a little set up the meeting. And that'll be between now and the meeting in January.
Probably the first part of December.
Perfect.
Report back at the meeting in January and then set the commissioner meeting for shortly after.
Perfect. And then once we're ready for the funding application and whatnot, at that point, we ask for the letter of support from them. Is that correct? Because we're not good. We're gonna hold off on asking for the letter of support at the group meeting.
You should have the letters.
Our,
For that
ours,
group meeting.
yeah,
And
but
then
for
we'll
this,
have it for the RFP later.
but we won't ask them for a letter of support.
yeah,
Until we need it.
Oh, the commissioner.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
We get the group.
Yeah. we just should have
Yeah,
it all
yeah.
over.
But if we can get a draft letter of support, where like mentioned, get taken, put a love letter in there, get it out, that
mhm,
we could have that in hand.
Right.
Yeah.
there. And that'd be really good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
knowing how long it takes people to respond sometimes, it's good to get that letter out. And at least get the draft out so that we ready. Launch it.
And that maybe not even the bigger association, like the realtor association. But maybe even some of the offices, the individual insurance offices, the buildings.
You know, the fire districts and the fire districts.
I mean,
But we're coming into holidays.
Right.
that's, yeah, and we're
We're
right
at the end
in
of the year, and it's like, it takes 2 months to get 2 weeks worth of work
Right.
done between now and then.
Yes.
oh,
And so, putting that rolling start on this. would be really
mhm, mhm.
So
Okay,
I say we will. How about Bridget, can you draft up that letter?
Yep, yep.
We'll bring that to the next, either the next meeting where we're putting all the names down and figuring out exactly who the letter goes out to, or we can even email it.
Yeah.
And, get it so it's finalized by the next meeting, and so then when we hammer out at the next meeting, exactly who that needs to be sent to and who's going to do that. Because we also want to like make sure that it's as personal as possible. So, because as Bridget's saying, she's reached out to all these groups, right? They don't know Bridget.
Mhm.
So if it's somebody that like you reaching out to the banking and the builders, or, our personal contacts, that's how it's going to work best.
mhm.
So, figure that out and get that going.
Well,
You know, it'd be nice to have this. Some industry. It's like All Valley Fire Council, it ought to be on the, again, it ought to be on the agenda for the November meeting, because there won't be a meeting till December meeting.
Right.
And then it's January.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and those are gonna be the easiest groups and the most important ones to get.
mhm,
And that's Project can send an email to Amy and get on the agenda for the next.
Yeah.
Yep.
for Raleigh.
Well, and then the letter. Boilerplate, and then they
Yeah.
just put their own fire district name in. Put it on the letterhead, and they have the fire chief sign. And now we just enough to actually happen.
And we may have included these. Previous earlier meetings, but I was thinking, maybe, I think we talked about a couple of the major employers in the county. GSK, the lab, hospital. The properties aren't directly affected, but certainly staff and employees.
Well, you know, that new clinic they're putting up the street, we'll portion up some of that back there. Could be back, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, well, the hospitalized clinics are the first. And I think, you know, those organizations who have to approach for better support.
mhm.
Well, not only in the actual, but in the aftershock, something like that. When you start.
Right, oh, yeah, and actually, and that's, we had, Marcus Daly Hospital. They
Right, yeah,
attended.
I know Willie was involved in the first couple of meetings.
Right.
When he approached the hospital.
Yeah.
That's gotta come from something with the commissioners going to fund base. County, I'm sure. Supported them.
Oh,
And the lab doesn't have to be directly affected.
No.
It has things really unravel.
Right.
So
Right.
same with GSA. Same with GSA.
Yeah, well, those two are intertwined.
Yeah.
But,
Well, there's a third pharmaceutical company coming in too. They're,
The vaccines.
Okay, well, it is just about 8:30 now. So I think we got some good stuff here. So I will work on that letter of support for us to send out. Have that ready by the next meeting, and then everyone start gathering ideas of people that we need to reach out to. Maybe come prepared with some of those for next meeting, definitely. And then, yeah, next meeting, I guess we'll just finish out the rest of what we had on the agenda for today, which was just identifying that core team, and then core team leaders.
get the whole list and then pick the 14 out of that.
Okay.
list, And then pick the leader from whoever's not there.
I like it.
It's not like- not like-
I declined right away.
Well, and something to think about too, for leadership, you know, we need a lead just because you need somebody to herd the cats, right? It just is a requirement, but does it have to be one person? And we have a trio or two, you know, I like sharing responsibility better, and so is that an option? And we work with that, would that make it easier so that it's not all on one person's shoulders, because all of us have plates that are overflowing, we all know that. So like, be creative, it doesn't have to be traditional, if there's a way of leading the core team that works best for this group, you know, maybe let's entertain different ideas, but we gotta make something so that one person doesn't carry the lion's share. We may have one leader, but maybe we can figure out a way that we ensure that that one person isn't carrying it.
If this moves forward into a contract support. Person, not necessarily the leader, but somebody who has really good project management skills. Is essential. And that actually takes a lot of the burden away from the leadership. If there's somebody that's there, project manager. There's a lot of loose ends and they'll be all the way through. And there'll be things that need to be acted on, coordination that needs to be done. So, so we may think about that in our leadership structure, our organizational structure.
Definitely. And ideally, the goal is to have Bridget as administrative support, maybe not necessarily the full project management, but she hopefully will be a support piece
Right.
throughout. We've
Yeah.
got to get funding, like it's not assured, but,
Right.
but, that is the goal, is to have Bridget throughout.
Right, and I didn't mean instead of Bridget.
No.
Yes.
You know,
No, and it
There's
needs
a-
to be an addition. because
right,
it-
there's a
like,
difference.
we should not be running this, the state should not be running it. I should not, Bridget should not be in the leadership role
Yeah,
too. So, yeah.
the leader shouldn't be the NRC, Forest Service, or for Valley County. That's just not the right,
Or it could be,
not the right front.
I don't know, because a lot of times CWPPs are driven by either a fire department, or fire departments, or.
I
emergency
don't think
services.
of fire departments and fire districts as the Valley County per se.
Okay,
What I meant was not a Forest Service employee, not a DNRC employee, not a Ravalli County employee. Because it just puts that person in an awkward spot once in a while.
Yeah.
And it's the wrong front
right,
to the,
yeah,
to the proposal.
It calls the credit.
I mean, obviously, we could be key players on the 14, but not the leader.
yeah.